Hello, everybody. So, I wanted to record a quick vlog for y'all. Probably won't get to do anything regarding starting a new game, um, before the weekend, even though it is technically the weekend, but Um, it's been kind of an interesting week. I've been trying to get outside a bit more often, especially since the heat wave that we've been under um, has seemed to go away, at least for the time being, and it's become to more normal type temperatures. Um, but yeah, so what was it? Wednesday? I went down the road to the laundromat, wash dry's clothes, came back here and everything, and then today I decided Keith had given me some cash, and so I decided, I'm gonna go to the bank, put that in there, and because it's just easier to do it that way rather than be like, okay, I have 10 pounds, what is that gonna, I have 20 pounds, what is that gonna do? And a lot of places, like, don't, that have, like, self checkouts and stuff, like the self checkout machines won't accept cash, which makes sense because they can, as I've come to know in my time working at Target, they can kind of gum up the works of the machines and everything. So I have been. So I decided to go to the bank, and I went. Not really the long way, but there's like one way you can go, which is kind of more populated and has more seats to sit in your rest, but it also, like I said, it's a lot more populated and stuff. And the other route kind of goes by some really pretty nature type situations. So I was like, yeah, I'll go that way. So I got a nice little walk in, walked around. And what's really cool about going that way is when you get to High Street, right on the right hand side, the first shop you come to is a bookstore. And so I was like. And so it was like, if I want to, I can go back that way and go into the bookstore and look around. I didn't end up doing that, but um, I will tell you what I did do. So I went to the bank, and I love they have like the ATM machines, but instead of withdrawing cash, you can put cash and or checks in the machine and it'll process it for you and add it to your account and all that. And so I just popped the 20 in there, did my thing, it calculated, and so it was like, and I always check my account just to make sure it got in there, that there wasn't an issue. And it's nice because right outside the bank, they have one of those bench situations, kind of two benches on either side, kind of surrounding a tree. And so I was like, that'll work. I'll sit down on the bench, double check, and everything went through okay. And so then I decided to go back the other way, which eventually leads to, if you keep going, it leads to kind of a cool, eventually leads to, if you turn a few streets down, it ends on Queen Street, which is where our flat is. And so it was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. And then I ended up turning, like, the first street before you get to that street is kind of an alleyway, but it leads to this little group of shops and restaurants and bars, including the bar called Pixies that I've visited a few times for the writing group that I'm a part of occasionally and all that. Anyway, so there's a shop in there that is mainly focused on crystals. So, like, it has some fancy, very expensive stuff, but if you walk in, it has little baskets all along one shelf with crystals. And the really cool thing is that someone there, like, I don't know if it's the owner of the shop or somebody who runs it or whatever, but they do, a lot of witches and stuff use crystals in their work and everything, and in their spells. Well, whoever works there had written out, like, each crystal and what the crystal represented and what you might want to use it for. Anyway, I bought this, which is, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's Adventure Teen. It kind of reminds me of Adventure, but Adventure Teen instead of Adventure. Event Teen or something like that. Anyway, but this is supposed to be really good for prosperity. And so, since I've been job hunting for a part-time job and kind of wanting the YouTube channel to do well and everything, I picked one up. And so it was like, I blessed it. Did taking care. I asked one of my. I'm a pagan, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, I kind of went from worshiping just one god to worshiping and working with multiple gods. And they're all from the Greek pantheon, because yes, I am a Greek mythology nerd. And yes, as you all know from my Epic the Musical video, which I did a while back, y'all know I love that kind of stuff. I love myths, I love stories, I love, the ancient stories, this is how this happened and all of that. And so I work with a few of them. So I asked one of my gods, a goddess actually, to bless the crystal. And so, yeah. So I'm leaving it out as kind of I guess you're supposed to leave them out. Like, I have like a little altar, also beauty care section set up over here on my table. You can't really see it, but it's got like a small tray. Got some of my eardrops for when my ear gets funky. And then Keith gave me this. It's a jade egg. And it's so pretty. Like, I love the, I know there's a technical term, but the stripes on it, the layers, I love that. That is so cool. But yeah, so I have a little section there, and so I left the crystal there, and hopefully that'll help, and hopefully I'll be able to either find something part-time that I can do that'll give me a little bit of money that I can put in my account, or or I can, I can start to monetize my YouTube channel or write a book, or, it's like, and to me, that's just so exciting that I can do that kind of stuff. That not only can I buy, can I like treat myself to like a crystal or whatever without worrying about, because I couldn't do that when I was living at home. I would be like, it's like, even if I drove over, there was like one store that I knew of, which was over where we used to live, kind of close to where we used to live back when I was in high school and stuff. And I remember, couple times when mom and dad would be on vacation or whatever, and I'd be like, he's going over here. I was always worried that they would, because they had the 360 on me. And, like, I get why we had it on there, because there for a while, like Shay would come and stay, my niece would come and stay with us, and because she needed, she was visiting her father, and her dad was not a good man. I still think he's not a good man. And, but yeah, so we had everybody on 360 supposedly to protect Shay and to see where. Well, and also, it kind of helps on certain situations where it's like, because there were times, especially when I was working at like Casey's or Target during the holidays, and I wouldn't get off exactly when I was supposed to, and because I had to work late and close down and everything, and so, it was kind of more of a so we don't worry about you thing. And so, willing to accept that, that's fine, whatever, but I don't know, like, I've been watching a lot more of, YouTube stuff from, like, Patrick Tehan, who's a therapist who works with people who deal with, narcissist situations, and like their parents are, they're like gotten no contact with their parents and all that. And my opinion on that for me is that, like, right now, it's like there's really no way for mom and dad to come to the United Kingdom. I mean, they've outright said, my dad has outright said, we probably won't be able to come visit you at least for a while because, because it's so expensive to get tickets. And especially considering right now with what's going on with Trump and with people having issues coming into the country into the US from other countries, and people trying to, leave the United States for, to come here or whatever, and it's like, and it's kind of like, yeah, So, and also considering that, I mean, probably, like me and Keith will probably go back over there when mom and dad die. When mom and dad, cease to live on this mortal coil. But at the same time, it's like I kick, I crack up every once in a while because my dad, the other day, Thursday, I think it was yesterday, um, or no, it wasn't Thursday, it was maybe Tuesday or something, but he called me on WhatsApp, or not WhatsApp, on FaceTime, and so we got to talk, because we hadn't gotten to talk on Sunday, when we usually do a weekly catch up on Sunday, and so, because it works out because mom and dad get home from church and then they get to have some lunch, and then we usually talk, and it's like around dinner time or after dinner time for me and Keith. Well, it was funny because my parents, and keep in mind, I highly appreciate them letting me live with them rent free for as many years as they did. And I do really appreciate that. But at the same time, it has bothered and it still does bother me. They give money very freely to either my sister. They have bailed her out of so many things and spent money to help her and all that. And I get that. I get it on the one hand because for a while there she was a single mom and she was, trying to raise her daughter the way she wanted, and so it was very much, we're helping you, be able to give Shay a good life and everything. I totally understand that. I'm not mad about that or anything. But at the same time, they also give money to, they're very generous people when it's not me. They've never really, they've helped me out in other ways, definitely. And I will be the first to admit that. But they have never, as far as I can remember, outright given me money. They've never given me cash or transferred money to my checking account for me to keep and use and all that. And, like I said, there's a little bit of resentment because of that. But at the same time, it's I do kind of understand that situation. Or maybe I should say I allowed myself to not make it a big deal. Because, like I said, Carrie had Shay. And so it wasn't just Carrie who needed money. It was Carrie needed money for Shay. And so Um, but I just find it funny. Like, Dad called me earlier this week, and like, the thing that drives me crazy about my dad is he always tries to talk to me when it's just the two of us. Like, so many times he would wait to go on his rants or his you need to behave this way and you need to stop doing this and you need to start doing this and everything. You need to behave the way I want you to behave. He would wait until mom left the house to like go to a medical appointment or something like that, or if she was going to visit, and then he'd sit there. It's like there's difference between having a conversation where two people share their sides and then they hopefully come to a mutual agreement. Or if all else fails, they agree to disagree. With my dad, it was always, it was always, Mom's gone, let me corner Julie and force her to listen to me rant about the same thing. It was always the same thing over and over again. And it was always that things were my fault. That I needed to behave the way he wanted me to behave because, and as he always said to me, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I'm making. Also, keep in mind that I'm in my 50s when he is telling me this. So, I'm not in my 20s. If I were in my 20s, I could maybe understand. Or I could maybe understand him saying I don't want you to do what your sister did. I don't want you to make the mistakes your sister made. It's like I could kind of understand that, but also keep in a lot of the simple joys I get nowadays are just being able to experience things. Like, after I get off here with you guys, I'm gonna start cooking dinner because I'm gonna put things in the crock pot Keith got for me. And, you know, or like just the fact that I took a long walk, but I was able to do it in my way. I was able to sit and rest when I needed to. That I was able to, you know, I didn't just have to keep going and all of that. And so, I don't know. But, like, the thing that cracked me up about when my dad called me this last time is he was like, he brought up the fact that apparently my sister has racked up some debt, which he didn't go into what that was or anything, and that's none of my business. Don't need to know. But he was like, your sister's in debt again. And then he was like, because they support a couple of people who are either missionaries or are wanting to be missionaries and are going through some tough times and stuff, and like they've helped people all my life. Like, I can remember them. I can remember many times walking into the house or calling them saying, hey, can we chat? Can we visit? And being told, oh, we can't tonight. We're meeting with so and so, you know. And it's like, so I kind of got used to that. I kind of got used to the fact that, you know, it was like, okay, whatever, you know, take care of my own stuff, you know. And that's how I got into the whole working full time retail stuff, which is fine. I mean, you gotta make a living, you know, somehow. And so I was just like, okay, you know, take care of my own stuff. But, so my dad leads with that, and then he's like, and also we've been had to give money to so and so for medical expenses and blah blah blah. And it's like, and then he paused, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I don't have any money to give you. Because also keep in mind at this point, like, I didn't have anything. I didn't have, I had like 11 pounds in my bank account. Don't worry, it's a lot better now, but I was just like, I, I almost asked, what, do you want me to ask Keith to send you money? Because I was like, and then it made a lot more sense as to why he led with, oh, your sister's racked up some debt. I'm like, did you ask her for money? And she said, and she was the one who said, and she came back with, you know, oh, I can't, I have this, and this pay, you know. And so I'm just kind of like, also, keep in mind, again, and like, I don't want to bring out all my parents' dirty laundry and all that, but also consider that dad was working part time, and I say that because it was more like full time in a few instances. Um, for a friend of his who ran an orc vacuum place up in the mall, up in an area kind of northish of where we lived. And so it was so, but apparently there, the person, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but apparently the person who owned the whole lot, the whole mall, decided to sell. I don't know if once he sold the whole thing or if he just sold certain stores. But apparently the Orc store was one of them. And so the guy Dad was working for had to vacate the store. And I'm not entirely sure how that works because from everything Dad told me, it was like this guy owned the store or ran the I don't know. From everything I was told, I always thought that Dad's friend and employer owned the store. But apparently that's not the case. Or something I don't even know. I don't know what happened, but yeah. And apparently, I mean, we'd had a talk a few weeks back, and Dad was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start working on repairing, because, you know, like a lot of vacuum cleaners nowadays don't get repaired. It's like you use them till they wear out, then you go get another one. Well, apparently, Oric is one of the few brands left that provides repairs to and cleaning out of certain types of vacuums that they carry. And so Dad was kind of the go-to guy for that. He was very much, he had a clientele. He had a bunch of people who would come to him regularly to get their vacuums fixed and all that. And when the Oric store had to shut down, apparently Dad was like, oh yeah, I can do this from home. I can keep, repairing vacuums from home. So I don't know if something happened with that. I don't know if he found out. Like, I would assume you have to have a license to be able to repair that kind of stuff. I could be wrong. I don't know. And I don't know if Dad had that license from before when he was working for the shop, or, if it's something he has to get now or whatever. But for a while there, I assumed he was going to be starting to, get clients from that store and get clients that used to go to that store and they come to the house and they drop off their vacuums or whatever. But apparently, I don't know. He didn't even mention that, so I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't know what happened with that. I might bring that up on Sunday and see what Dad says. But I was just like I didn't say anything. I didn't respond to that. I instead brought up, I said, oh, well, I've been job hunting, trying to find something part-time, and all that. And then Dad was like, oh, you can work from home. And I'm like, doing what? It's like, it's been years since I've done office work. I would be more likely to go out and work in one of these shops that's out here or whatever. If I can find one that's hiring right now and, all that. But, yeah, I just found that funny. I was just like, I'm not going to ask Keith. And it would have to be asking Keith because, I don't have money of my own right now. It's like, I'm currently working on trying to fix that, but it's taking a while, And so I'm just like, so right now, I rely on Keith to, provide me with some spending money occasionally, every once in a while. And so I'm just like, and usually I'm pretty good about making the money stretch. But that's been from experience. That's been from me going to college, living on my own. It's like, how do I make this stretch and last me, you know, whatever. And like when I was working, I wasn't getting paid monthly. I was getting paid bi-weekly usually. And yet it was still like, how can I make this last a little bit longer? So I've gotten really good at that. I'm proud of myself for being able to stick to a budget for the most part and be able to be like, okay, I have this much money, I can do this or whatever. Um, but yeah, so I'm just a little curious. Like I said, it may bring up the whole, are you not doing the cleaning vacuums at home? Are you not able to do that? Because I didn't get to ask him. Because, like I said, Dad usually waits till Mom's, you know, busy doing something or can't come in and, you know, interrupt or whatever it is he thinks she's gonna do. And so I'm just like, so I'm kind of curious. So I may bring that up on Sunday and be like, are you still doing the cleaning vacuums, and kind of stuff. And like, I understand. Times are tough. You know, you, you know, you have to do what you can. And it's like, Mom doesn't work. And I don't think Mom can work right now because of different things going on with her. But it's like, I kind of feel bad for Dad because, like, he's in his 70s, early 80s, and he's thinking about going back into the workforce. And I'm like, good luck with that because, like, I kind of want to suggest you try out retail, but then again, retail isn't going to give him enough money, at least not in America. It's not going to give him enough money to be able to do what he needs to do. So yeah, so I don't know. I just find that really interesting. I'm still kind of like, and it took me like a day or two to be like, wait a minute. It's like, did you ask me? Like he didn't ask me. He didn't come out and say, hey, can you spare a little money or whatever. But I almost wonder if that's what he was going for. If he was like asking me for money. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. It's like how the turntables, as the kids say nowadays. At least I think they still say it. I don't know. But, it's like, I can't send you anything. It's like, I don't have any of my own money. And I'm not going to ask Keith to send you money. Especially at the amount he was talking about, because he talked about he gave over $100 to this one person, and it's like, that's fine. It's your money, you do what you want with it, but at the same time, it's like, the two of you are older. It's gonna get harder and harder for the two of you to find a job. And, like, especially, like, Dad's always been more in the sales department. He's always gravitated toward selling stuff, or, a lot of times he ran his own business and everything, which was fine. But it's like, Mom. It's like, out of everybody, I would say Mom would have the better luck of finding a job because she was a nurse for years and years. And, like, she'd have to go back in and probably take some classes and stuff to get up to speed on new things going on and stuff. But, like, I would consider Mom to be more able to get a job than Dad would. But that's just my opinion. Take that with a grain of salt, whatever. But yeah, so things been interesting. And but yeah, um that's what's been going on in my life. Kind of wanted, I hope that wasn't too much for you guys. I know we got a lot of stuff going on in America right now, and more crap coming down the line from the top. But at the same time, it's like, keep fighting. You know, he can't stay in office forever. You know, it's like, he is going to, you know, be gone eventually. And I highly doubt that J.D. Vance is going to be approached to be the next president. I highly doubt that. But anyway, eventually things will get better. I truly believe that. But yeah. So hang in there. Come over here if you can. Move to another country. Move to Canada. I mean, it's like, and yeah, every country kind of has their own stuff they're dealing with, but at the same time, it's got to be better than what's going on in America right now. So, in the meantime, hang in there, stand strong, and like I said, probably won't upload a gameplay video. Still think about what game to play. But in the meantime, I love y'all. Y'all are great. And yeah, we got this. And I know that sounds kind of trite, but we gotta keep fighting. We gotta keep fighting for what's right and for, the truth to be told. And so, yeah. Thank you also for letting me tell my story, tell part of my story. Thank you for listening. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Remember, whatever happens, we'll survive. We're survivors. We will keep going and we'll keep thriving, and things have to get better. Things will get better. So, I love you guys, and I will see you next week.